Now from Hollywood, California, the horror capital of the world, the Boulet Brothers, creatures of the night.
Hello, Uglies, and welcome to the newest episode of the Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night. As always, we are your hosts for the evening, Swanthula
and Dracula.
And we are coming to you live from the seance room right here at Boulet Manor.
And it's our first ever podcast here.
It is. And tonight, it's a very special night because we will be channeling the spirit of the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 2, Episode 2, the Ghost Town Challenge, and how appropriate it is to be in our seance room to do it.
Yeah, so exactly. We're channeling the ghosts
It's
back.
perfect.
Got it.
Click.
So I hate to report that Miss Ian will not be joining us tonight because she is sick. She caught, I think, a flu or something from a horrible little child, and poor thing is stuck in bed.
I've warned her time and again, don't go around the children ever if you can avoid it.
And he did once, and look what happened.
Mm-hmm.
We
I
should
do
have
feel
kept
bad.
him in a bubble.
I'm like, he can't catch a break. I'm going to miss him here.
Yeah, so for listeners at home, we are recording now in Boulet Manor. We have started to put together our own podcast room, which is designed like a seance room, which I think is fitting.
Sure.
And so when we have guests on, they can come and be in the seance room with us, and it'll be fun.
And this is Drax's way of teasing that there's a visual aspect that may be coming somewhere down the road that you, dear listener, will be able to see the glory of our seance podcast room.
Yeah, we have this big round table, so I guess the cameras would have to be in the middle pointed out at us or something, but we will see.
Yes, we shall.
Let's talk a little bit about movies, right? Because we've
Sure.
been doing these Post Mortem recaps for quite a while. And
Yeah.
we've, gotten away from our usual movie watches.
Mm-hmm.
So I am delighted to report that we went to a screening of the 40th anniversary of the Goonies last night.
And it was so good. Thank you, One-Eyed Willie, for everything that you've done for me, my childhood, and today.
No, was it as good as you remember?
It was so good. I mean, there's such a joy in watching a Steven Spielberg movie. Every shot is set up in such a way, it just pushes the story. Nothing is a throwaway. And it's campy and it's 80s and it's like the precursor to Stranger Things. Like, I love that movie.
It has such a signature flow, his movies do. And you know what I mean? Like how quickly things go, and it's almost a little frantic at times, but even the way his cameras move and follow things through the tunnels and all, it's really interesting.
Oh yeah, and it's so 80s, right? Like my favorite era of like movies and TV. So it's so wrong and just so right.
I did not remember how they harassed Chunk the whole movie and
About
sort
the
of
weight.
picked at him about his
Yeah.
weight. But then at the same time, he was kind of the star of the movie.
He was definitely one of the main
He got
characters.
all the laughs. He got, so it's kind of like interesting.
And it's so good. They're like, spill that, kid. And he's like, oh, everything in third grade. He does the
That's
whole
Ian
thing.
if he ever got captured.
Oh my God, it's so fun. It's so fun.
And we also, obviously, we saw Nosferatu. We went to the premiere. But we haven't talked about Nosferatu on the podcast. What did you think of it?
I liked it. I wanted to love it. I had such high hopes for it. Visually, I thought it was absolutely stunning. It was beautiful. I liked the monster design. I know that's controversial because not everybody agrees, but I kind of like this Slavic type of like almost like traditionally ethnic man from that era. That's what Dragula would look like. Did I say Dragula?
Yeah.
That's what the Count should look like. But I noticed all of the recreations of some of the scenes from the original, and I appreciated that. But at times it was a little lagging, and I felt like there were so many buildups that actually delivered nothing. I'm like a little annoyed.
It's odd because it was beautiful. You can't deny that. The costumes were gorgeous. The settings were gorgeous. The way it was shot was fantastic. But it did feel a little boring right in the middle. I think it just needed like an edit.
Yeah.
And I love all of his movies, all of Robert Eggers' movies. I love every single one of them. But this one just was not, it wasn't an A for me. It was maybe A C?
A C-24?
Yeah. What else have we watched recently? Oh, we've been watching The Traitors on Peacock.
Oh God, what a fucking joy!
That's your favorite show.
I love that show. Like it just does it for me. And I think they've caught a groove now. Like this season, I've only seen the 4 episodes that have been out, but it exceeds, I think, the drama and the spiciness and the gamification that we saw in season 2. I feel like they've already beat that.
I do too. I mean, I think that it was a total disrespect to be at the Emmys for the same category as Alan Cummings was, that he won for the host, channeling us, right?
You said it.
It's true.
I mean, I feel like there's some DNA of our characters in his whole character.
He's a gay. He watches Dragula.
Yeah.
He knows.
Uh-huh.
It's the way we iterate things and we sort of rhyme things. And I'm like, I don't know.
So listen, Alan Cummings, if you're listening and you don't agree with us, I challenge you to come on as a guest on our podcast and we'll just battle it out for you right here for all the fans.
And we'll take your Emmy. Thank you.
No, he's great. I think Bob the Drag Queen, it was such a kind of glorious moment because it's not the first time we've seen a queen on the show, but last year Peppermint really did not get very far out of the gate, and it was a little bit of a dud as far as that was going. So I was rooting for her too, but Bob, I think, slayed the game. It was so good.
This is what I love about Bob on Traitors. Bob is not good for a drag race person. Bob is like one of the best competitors there, the most entertaining and engaging, and sort of runs the show in a way. And I think it's fantastic to see that kind of representation on TV.
No, I totally agree. And what else? We've been kind of down a nerd rabbit hole and watching all the Star Trek content.
You're revealing that you're a Trekkie? You're not you're a junior Trekkie.
I'm a junior Trekkie, yeah. Like, I am a Star Wars queen, but I am also now a junior Trekkie. I never realized, I think, or maybe appreciated, or even given a chance, the whole Star Trek thing, but I'm hooked. Like, I'm into it. I really like it.
So what do you let the listeners know what you've seen so far?
Well, we went back and watched all of the movies, and I'm not sure if we've talked about that.
The original cast.
There's like 5 movies. We've actually seen a little bit of Discovery a couple of years ago, and now we've gone back and we started watching Strange New Worlds, and this one focuses on Captain Pike, and it is so good. I think it's so well done.
I loved that they brought Pike back because to me, when I was younger and I watched the show when I was growing up, that image of Pike, when they show him, I think it's on episode 8 or something, and he's all disfigured and he's in that little computer R2-D2 body. I'm like, oh my God. I was like so terrified by that. It seemed like a prison from hell.
Oh, no, total nightmare fuel.
Just locked in your head. And so I really think it's cool that they're going back and, they have the nurse and all the characters from the original Star Trek from episode 1. It's really cool.
Yeah, like being locked in a little machine and getting trapped up in your head. It's like getting ready for an episode of filming of Dragula.
Speaking of Dragula, let's take a break. And when we come back, we are going to dig into the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 2, Episode 2. Stay tuned, Uglies. All right, welcome back, everybody. It's time to dig into the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 2, Episode 2. We have to start at the beginning, which is our intro, which was so I did not remember this, and I was like, wow. It was so camp.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of love it for what it was at the time, you know, like the whole digging up Sean Morales and the poppers and the nipple clamps. I was just like, it just kept coming.
I mean, it's high camp to a ridiculous level, but bringing back a very popular member of the pit crew through sorcery and mechanics with the jumper cable nipple clamps and breathing life into him with the poppers. Like, I just thought it was brilliant.
The truth is,
Sean
gay. Morales was ours all along. He worked for us in all of our clubs. He was a host and a dancer, and he was ours.
It's true.
Yeah. So we reclaimed our person.
And I'm going to say this. Drag Race had kind of divorced Sean Morales for years until we put Sean on season 2. And then they brought him back to the cast of the pit crew.
And I don't appreciate that they didn't do something theatrical where they showed RuPaul stealing him back.
Yeah, I would pay to see that. I really would.
They should have done it. So then we go to the cast, right? And this is something interesting that I noticed. They arrive on the set of the scene where we're shooting on location before you see us or anything, and they get dumped out of this tractor trailer into the desert, and they're like, why are we here in this ghost town, actually?
Yeah.
What did you think of that? Like, they're, it's before we tell them what they're doing or anything, they're just there.
I liked it because it had the bite of reality where it's like, yeah, you can hear the tumbleweeds, like cue that Western music. It's like you're out here literally in the middle of nowhere. And I think by the footage, you can see like the dryness and the heat. And then, being in makeup in direct sunlight is like a terror.
Yeah.
Like for me, it is a literal melting terror.
And it happens to you. Everybody gets booked for daytime things, especially
Pride events. Yeah.
Remember when we did Austin Pride and I've never been in drag in that kind of heat in my life.
104. And we ran from our air-conditioned trailer onto the stage, did the show, and ran back.
And was still super sweaty.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but dumping the ghouls out in the middle of the desert, the ghost town, I just thought it was a fun way to crash course them into the episode.
And they were also natural. They didn't need prompting or anything. They just started talking, and it was very how you would talk with a group of friends.
Yeah. And they were recapping like who they thought would go home. And, everybody had votes and everybody had their own opinion, but they were all happy to see Erica and Monique return, but they weren't happy to see Monique's pads. What a great
I don't know
line.
why I don't remember it. Like, rewatching it now, I'm like, God, Monique just shows up.
She really does.
Yeah, she
really does.
Your attention goes to her. It's and Dali too. It's kind of like bratty back
bitchy,
then. Yeah, I
kind
loved
of like it.
I did too.
Yeah, like Dali has transformed not only visually, but the personality is really I think maturity is really what it is.
Which we hate. I mean, maturity.
So annoying.
It's good for, All right, so then we show up in our pink Cadillac.
Yes, we do.
Right? With our long red dresses and our black hair, which we never wear black hair anymore. But used to we would like once a season.
Yeah, well, this season we showed up in the black bobs and this black wavy thing that we're doing in the desert.
Yeah, it was our first little vintage wig. I thought it was
cute.
really cute.
Yeah.
What do you think of the look now?
Now I'm like, the white nails with the blood on them. No,
Yeah.
Never. I would never do that now. And even the eyeball earrings, I think, are a little too campy.
Oh, totally.
It's too cartoony.
But season 2 was very campy.
Yeah, no, I know. But for us personally,
Yeah.
I think our looks have matured and also darkened. Like, I just don't see that. And we needed some shape in those dresses. That's all I got to say.
Oh, yeah. I
felt-
thought I had a pretty nice shape, actually.
Well, I said what I said.
Skipped your corset again, did you?
Oh my God, you love to push me. Some girls don't need it. Ooh. Monique, oh my God, she's giving on this episode too. At some point, she's like, yeah, bitch tried that little stunt, but I don't think it's going to be enough to save her. Like a supervillain.
Well, okay, speaking of supervillain, it's so amazing to see our two villains, James and Monique. They go outside to have a conversation. James apologizes. They make up. And then literally 1 second later, Monique's like, James tried to give me another one of her fake ass apologies.
So brilliant.
It's amazing. So, and then they this is the first time you see the cast sort of start to question bitch, right? Like as a group.
Yeah.
It felt very much like the odd man out.
For sure.
Yeah.
Almost paralleling the way that they did Loris on the stage, no one likes to see someone get ganged up on. At least I don't. And I think that was definitely the vibe. Erica was kind of pushing against that, but I hate that pack mentality. It's like, get your own brain.
I do too, but I also hate that someone will wear the same prosthetic from the previous challenge. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, I'm going to challenge you because let's look at Organic. If you can reshape it and represent it, even I don't care if it's the same thing 100 times over. If it looks different and it's still engaging, like I'm in.
I can see that, but you want to show variety on the show, right? So like if you did something more ripped up the first time, maybe the second time you want to be more painted and,
I agree. But, sometimes you make your plan and you don't know how the challenges are going to fall. And if these are the looks that you want to do and you happen to have like a mangled exploding face 2 episodes in a row, then there you go.
It popped, okay?
It popped. God, they just dragged her so hard.
Dolly is part of it
No,
too.
absolutely. And Abora is just so viperous and over it. And you can tell it comes from a very real place.
Oh, yeah.
Which you just, oh God, it's just gold.
I love it. And I just have to tell the audience, I said this on the last Post Mortem recap. We are not going to judge our cast by what they did 10 years ago. Like, it's ridiculous. They're all very different people now. They're all friends, actually. I know Victoria and Bitch get along really great. Dolly and Bitch get along. So,
Yeah,
you know.
Dolly and Victoria, everybody
Yeah, but at the
generally
time,
gets along.
they were getting to know each other. And it was a little more cutthroat back then, I think.
I think so too.
And it's interesting, like, people would try to plot on how to get other people out of the show naturally without prompting.
Yeah. And kind of instinctually, like, gang up with, you know, the enemy of my enemy as my friend kind of thing. Mm-hmm. What did you think about the floor show? Like, of course, we know what we thought about in Judgment, but was there anything that stood out to you having watched it again recently that's like, wow, that really holds up, or this was special and, you know, you didn't see it at the time?
Yes, it is Abora's look and her performance. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was really good. Looking back on it, it still stands the test of time. I think it's one of the most unique and recognizable looks from all of Dragula.
You literally, I said standouts. Abora's look overall, one of the most iconic looks from the show, period. I really think so.
I think so too. And I thought Dali looked fantastic.
Oh my God, the makeup is otherworldly.
You can see Dali in there, like who Dali becomes.
Yeah, which is so interesting, especially for fans who picked up on Dragula in later seasons, where Resurrection or season 4 might have been their first season, and seeing Dali the way that Dali's are eventually evolved. And then when I saw some comments, people that had seen that first and then going back to watch season 2, and they're like, oh my God, Dali is like a completely different person.
Yeah.
The drag is transformative.
It is. And I think that's interesting. I think it's great to evolve. Who wants to be the same for their whole drag career?
Yeah. I thought Disasterina's dress really stood out. I kind of loved that whole idea. Again, Bitch's physical performance was fantastic. And Vicky's just concept overall was amazing.
I mean, she lit herself on fire. Of course she's going to win. And if I had to go back and rejudge this, would I judge it the same? Probably, because Abora and Victoria and Dali were in the top. Would I have made Abora win over Victoria? I don't know.
Well, I also wrote down what a killer top 3 for this challenge. Like Victoria, Abora, and Dali standing next to each other, shoulder to shoulder. What a great representation of what Dragula has to offer. But in my fantasy, in my rearranging of the rules of the past, Victoria would have won the Cenobite challenge, which would perfectly set up Abora to win the Ghost Town challenge.
Right.
Because I think in a parallel universe, that's what would have happened.
Well, we've talked about this, right? We talk about what would have happened. Because, I'm going to talk about one of the most, this is like a serious BTS.
Okay.
And I'm going to spill it. And I never told anybody.
Okay, shit.
Me, you, and Ian, I think, are the only people that know this. And the person that said it. So when we were on location at the Ghost Town, we were there until late into the night. And me and you were walking through the stables. And Monique was walking back from the bathroom. And we didn't like talk to them one-on-one during filming of the show because you don't want to show favoritism and all that stuff. But Monique's like stops and she's like, well, we all know who's going home. We all voted and it's bitch pudding. And it was in that moment that I'm like, you voted? Like in my head, I'm like, you voted? She's not going anywhere. And that
not tonight,
is what,
not today, not next week.
That is what saved bitch pudding.
Wow.
It is. And I mean, hey, it's a really good thing that happened because look how she turned around on the next episode.
Yeah,
but
we see a lot of great stuff from Bitches this season high.
She saved her ass though with that performance because the look the look wasn't bad, but it was a little like not really wet, you know what, but the performance, she showed us who she was and what her strengths were.
I remember that so clearly because I'm all about the performance. Like if you can perform, I don't care if you are a brick and your makeup looks terrible. If you see the performance and it's there, and I saw it that day, like you're like, this person has star power.
Yeah. And I think people crew, different. I think that they thought Bitch was going to go home. And how different. Can you imagine if Bitch had went home on episode 2?
I don't even know what would have happened.
What would have happened? I think a lot of different. I don't think Dolly would have left.
Monique takes the crown.
Oh my God. It's just interesting the decisions you make and how things play out.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, for sure. We have to talk about Kitty, and we have to talk about the Charmin comment, because I was, you can see it in the footage. Like, I was just bubbling. I couldn't hold it.
That is her. For anybody, you
Yeah.
know, people that don't know her, she's this like club icon, and that is her to a T. I mean, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. I mean, she comes in and out of being on point and then being like completely ridiculous. And I think that's why we love her.
Oh.
All right. So let's talk about the extermination, which was paintball, which I thought was super fun.
At the time, I really loved it too. And you could tell the other ghouls that were in the viewing booth with us, they loved it too, especially Abora.
Of course.
Like, I think it was like really fun to watch the people that you just beat shoot each other. It was kind of awesome.
Speaking of, I actually think that was another way in which Bitch kind of saved herself, because she performed it up, she hammed it up, and was just like letting Monique hit her and making fun of it.
Yeah.
And I think that showed some gumption on her part that made her seem more like she was hungry to be there.
I agree.
So what did you think of Kendra destroying James with the paintball?
I loved it tonight when I watched it, and I loved it then when it happened. Yeah. And I forget about Kendra's history in the military.
Right.
And I think that definitely came into play
Of course.
in the gun challenge. Yeah.
And James, I remember, had welts all over from that. So did Erica too, actually. Disasterina was funny as hell. She was, right?
Yeah.
With the paintball, it was crazy.
Oh, it was so good. Let's talk about the death scene, because we reveal that Monique dies. And I love this homage to Halloween. And it's kind of genius because we're like, oh, we're going to use the mask.
Yeah.
And we'll slide it over the camera to emulate that Michael Myers view and then chop her up.
You know, there's something fun about it. It needs an edit.
Yeah.
And it needs some blood.
Yes, it definitely needs blood.
But I kind of love it.
Yeah, I kind of love it too.
Yeah. So on that note, let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to answer all of your listener questions. Stay tuned, ghouls. All right, we're back, and now it's time to answer all of your listener questions. I'll read the first one.
Okay.
Elle asks, I've loved Dragula and the Halfway to Halloween special and all your comic stories. I'm wondering if you plan to branch out into doing a horror movie or show anytime soon, or perhaps later down the line.
I think the quick answer is absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
We have a few different concepts as far as like our first scripted horror film. And there's a couple other shows that are kind of interested in working with us and that we're very excited about.
Things take a long time to make, and especially deals with scripted things. It takes a lot longer than it does to do reality TV. You can turn around a season in a year, but you cannot do that with a scripted show. So these things just take time.
John and Jordan from Tampa write, our question is if you'd consider expanding the Monsters universe into other media such as video games. We would love to see your cast of monsters in a Darkstalkers-esque fighting game or in an interactive drama and survival horror game similar to Dark Picture Anthology.
I mean, I think that would be fantastic if someone made a
cool.
fighting game of the Dragula characters. That'd be great.
So cool. I think we had merch last tour where it looked like we were different portraits on a character creation screen. I thought was really cool.
I mean, we're going to be in Dead by Daylight, so that's a good start.
That's
right?
a good step in the right direction.
Kristen from Texas says, Season 2 was my favorite. Thank you for doing this recap on the podcast. My question is about the on-location shoots, Ghost Town, Scream Queens, and Welcome to Wasteland. The locations brought extra difficulty to the contestants and added to the drama and torture, which was great.
Oh, I like Christine.
Also, these were some of the best ever Dragula episodes because Drac and Swan gave us legendary, gorgeous looks. Is there any possibility of on-location episodes in the future?
Well, let's start at the most important thing you've said because I'm a little offended. Our looks have continued to be gorgeous and legendary through all seasons and will continue into the future.
So, yes, we've done on location challenges since then. In season 3, you saw some where we were on location with them. That part has been sort of removed because we are now directing the show. So we can't be directing the show on location and then go get in drag. I mean, there's not enough time to do that. So we usually bring them back to the set to do the judgment part of the show and the exterminations and all that. But yes, we absolutely will be doing more on location things.
It's one of the things that set the show apart from other shows like it, that we took drag performers and put them in the wild. That's how we referred to it. So take them to a club, take them to the desert, take them to places, you might not think this is a traditional place to see drag, but a lot of times we're paralleling something that actually happens in life. Like, you might as well have been in the middle of a desert ghost town, heat-wise, when we were at the Austin Pride Fest.
Right.
It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's easier to do on-location challenges when your crew is 25 people versus like 50 or 60.
Yeah.
It's a huge production to get everybody outside and to make sure everybody has, water and tents and all. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know how to feel about that because like back at the season 2 era, we were just making like run and gun decisions. Mm-hmm. And I think people,
no script.
People
either.
love that. Like they love the reality. I mean, I look at our line. I'm like, how are we recalling all of this stuff?
Well, we just said it.
Yeah, it's kind of brilliant. But I think what you lose is like the beautiful lighting and the shots being set up and like the storytelling. It's a little sloppier, even though the content might be more raw, and that's what people like.
It's not like TV cable ready.
Right.
And I think now it is.
Yeah. Aaron from Madison, Wisconsin writes, I play Dead by Daylight and was delighted to hear about your inclusion as skins, as well as seeing the season 666 queens battle it out to become their own game skin in the season's Pan-Ultimate episode. Is there any new info that you can share about this collab?
We don't know when the release date is yet. I know it takes a long time to do all the artwork and animation and everything, but I have seen the skins for us and I love them. And I've seen the charms too.
Looks so good.
Yeah.
I was scared to open that email. I'm like, oh God, I want to love it.
Yeah.
And how can I tell them if I don't? But it was great.
Yeah, the skin for Asia's killer was great. Our skin is good. Like, I think it's going to be fantastic, but I don't know when it is yet.
Our hair look good. Our nails look good.
John from London, England asks, my question is, on your podcast, Creatures of the Night, you mentioned season 1 being a test run and that your plans were for season 2 to actually be the first season. What does this mean your plans were for the cast? Were you going to reuse the previous cast, or was it always your plan to cast new monsters? I would have made it a merge. So some of the people from season 1 would have made it to season 2. And some of the people you saw in season 2 would have been there too.
I would have allowed you to do that. Matt from Orlando writes, let me start by saying I am really enjoying the weekly dose of boulets during the off-season. My question is what we get Ian's real personality, or is it more of an exaggerated persona for the show?
I am going to tell you right now that is how Ian is all the time. And sometimes he's more animated than that.
It's true. And you know what? His husband loves him for it, and so do we. I mean, he really is on that level all the time. You might have heard us say like, oh, Ian, put on your fake podcast personality. That's kind of ironic because people think that's what it is. But if you ever came to a meet and greet or you come to a tour stop and you get the chance to meet Ian, you will feel that infectiously positive, rambunctious energy because it's real and it's all the time.
There's more behind it too, because, and he's talked about this, I wouldn't talk about it if he didn't, but I think when he was younger, he was depressed and he was, in a more negative space. And I know that he worked to make himself positive and say, I'm going to fake it until I make it. And I think it made his life a lot happier. When you see Ian, he's warm, he's engaging, he's paying attention to you, he has a big smile. And that's just part of who he is.
I agree with you. And it's infectious. Like he passes that on.
Yeah.
Because it might sound kind of annoying. Like, what do you mean? Like, make yourself positive. But I think it's almost like a mind trick, and it really works.
You have to see the positive. You have to. And all of us have that choice 1,000 times a day. Xenix Wolf from Durham asks, hey, I'm not sure if this question has been asked before or not, but I gotta know. There have been moments like the premiere of season 4 and 5 where you say, those who fail to complete the fright feat will be immediately exterminated and cut from the competition. I've always wondered if there's ever been a cast member we never heard of that was cut from a season because they failed the beginning fright feat.
Hell no, because if they failed it, I would want it on camera. Like we would need to share that with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I see why they would ask the question, because if someone didn't, we could always just edit that person out like they were never on the show.
Yeah.
And so far, we have never done that. And I don't even know if you could. Our show's shot very differently than other shows.
Yeah.
I know some shows can cut people out completely, and I don't even understand how they do it.
Some shows might even cut a finalist out. Like they were in the whole competition.
I don't
make it to the end.
that.
Probably would have won that season.
Do they have wide shots or not?
I didn't watch, but you know, they did.
They would have to cut every wide shot. It's crazy.
I think sometimes she appeared in the footage and it was just like ignored. You skipped the judgment. It was crazy.
Wow. Okay.
What a time. Gavin from Austin writes, I'm a big fan of the show and the podcast, and simply for my knowledge, I have a burning question. Of course, Dragula is a horror-based drag competition, but at the end of the day, we're all gay people. What? Oh my God, how dare you assume that? And gay people love pop music. I was wondering who all of your pop divas are. Oh my God, I love this question because we have evolved into pop girlies now. Even drag.
Well, of course, we love Nicki Minaj.
Yes.
We also love Chapel Roan. We also love Sabrina Carpenter.
It's true. I mean, we love the old school girls too. Like I've always loved Madonna.
Yeah.
Some things from Britney.
Yeah.
Not the biggest Gaga fan, but there's maybe like half a dozen songs that really do it.
Can I tell you, I have never been a pop girly my entire life until last year.
Yeah.
And it was when when I was like Sabrina Carpenter, Chapel Roan, and I was like, wow, I really love these sounds. Mm-hmm. But I'm not normally a pop person at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I don't know what happened in the last year.
Well, Gavin's right. We're all gay and we do like pop music on some level here or there.
I see a little bit of Sabrina Carpenter and you, actually.
What?
Yes.
What do you mean?
It's the whole like sort of beautiful, like aloof vibe. I think that you have that little bitchy.
Yeah, I like it. Oh,
so that means I'm the Chapel Roan.
She's fierce. I love her shit. She is so good. She is so good.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us, girls and ghouls. And if you'd like us to answer one of your questions live here on the podcast, please write to us at creatures@bouletbrothersdragula.com and let us know where you're from, because we love to know where our listeners are listening at.
Yes, we do. Also, don't forget to lend us your support from Beyond the Veil. Be sure to rate, subscribe, and review our sinister little podcast wherever you dare to listen. Your devotion feeds the dark magic that keeps it alive forevermore. The Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night is hosted and produced by Glamour and Swantula Boulet, along with co-host Ian DeVogler, with music by Neuron Spector.